Can you all see the screen now?
Yes, sir. We can see your screen.
Okay. So the topic is the mangroves and the blue carbon and unlocking the coastal ecosystem, the potential of coastal ecosystems. And we know why we are talking about these blue carbon and why we are talking about the mangroves, specifically the blue carbon. I'd like to mention some of the background because I know the participants are there from different backgrounds, from different educational and qualification and different fields. So I will like to keep it very much on the basic scale so that everybody can understand what we are talking about. We start with the climate change. We know that the humanity is facing this problem since the um, uh, this is the biggest problem that the humanity is facing currently. And because of climate change, we are experiencing these heat waves, we are experiencing the desertification, we are experiencing the extreme weather events like the floods and all these things, and that is all because of the that disturbance in the carbon cycle. And as we see that the carbon emissions, they are increasing every day. And because of the increase in carbon emissions, now we have crossed the 400 ppm, the barrier, the 400 ppm line. So the carbon emissions have increased so much in the atmosphere. So we have to control these carbon emissions. We have to reduce the energy consumption. We have to reduce the all the carbon emissions and the emissions in the atmosphere. We have to sequester those emissions. If you see this graph, this is from the NOAA. Uh, they mentioned the atmospheric CO2 concentration. That's which was 280 parts per million in the in the 1750, has now reached up to has now crossed the 400 ppm. And the global carbon emissions, which is in billions of tons, you see that this has crossed 35 billion tons. So this is the biggest problem that we have to tackle down. And then there are various initiatives that done by the international community, particularly the United Nations and the IPCC. We all know about that, the Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change. So in 1997, they signed the Kyoto Protocol. It came into force in 2005. And then there are various other carbon initiatives like carbon farming initiative. So in Australia, there are other initiatives in various other countries like the United States, South Africa, etc. And recently, the last one, the Paris Agreement that was signed in 2015, is also a landmark in this in these global efforts. So now we talk about because we are talking about the blue carbon, and that means that we're talking about the carbon trading. And carbon trading is one of the initiatives taken for the reduction in the carbon footprint, reduction in the carbon emissions. And these carbon credits, you see that carbon trading is basically um, it's a trade between the carbon sequestration and the carbon emissions. The emitter, it pays to the carbon to the people who are storing the carbon, particularly in the forest. The foresters, they implement the best management practices to generate the credits. These credits are then sold to the emitters. The emitters, they have to buy. They have the regulatory requirement. They have to buy the credits, and those credits, they are purchased by the emitters, there is a market for that, and those in that market the trading takes place. Now, I'd like to tell something about the blue carbon. The blue carbon is the coastal and marine ecosystems. The carbon stored in the coastal and marine ecosystems, such as the mangrove forest, the seagrass beds, and the tidal marshes. These ecosystems they sequester a huge amount of carbon dioxide. They sequester huge amount of carbon in their in their plants and animals, and they store those in the carbon is stored in the sediment below. Um, so this is a they have a great potential for uh, these ecosystems. They have great potential for the carbon credits, because the amount of carbon stored in these ecosystems is much larger than the uh, terrestrial ecosystems. And you see, later on in this presentation, I will show you some of the facts through which we compare the terrestrial ecosystem with the coastal ecosystems. And these coastal ecosystems, they have very high amount of carbon stored per unit area. Although the area of coastal ecosystem is very small as compared to the terrestrial ecosystems, but in that small area, the per square meter or per square hectare of the carbon storage is very huge. So, for example, the 95% of the carbon in the seagrass meadows they store in the soil. So the soils are very rich in carbon. And mangroves and seagrass and also the tidal marshes, they all have very huge quantities of carbons stored. So you can see there are various efforts being done nowadays for restoring the mangroves, for plantation of the and protection of the and conservation of the coastal ecosystems. So then there is a blue carbon initiative. So this the international blue carbon initiative, it is a coordinated global program, and it's focused on conserving and restoring coastal ecosystem for the climate, biodiversity, and human well-being. So there are three objectives overall. These This initiative, the International Blue Carbon Initiative, it has three objectives: the climate, the community, and the biodiversity. We call it as CCB. CCB means climate, community, and biodiversity. These are the three objectives. Not only we have to protect the ecosystem, we also have to look for the well-being of the communities. We have to ensure that these projects they serve to the local community. Their rights are ensured. They are not denied for their rights, for their livelihoods, and for their food and other resources. And also we have to safeguard the biodiversity. The local indigenous biodiversity should be ensured. It should be protected, and it should be conserved. And then we also have HCV's high conservancy values are determined for these projects. So I'd like to mention some facts for the critical storage of the carbon. The global 83% of the global carbon cycle is circulated through the oceans. You all know that the carbon is absorbed in the oceans, and from there it is some part of it is emitted back into the atmosphere, and some part of it is actually it goes into the a geosphere, into the ground. So 2% of the coastal habitat coverage. The coastal habitats, they cover only, I told you that the coastal habitats, it covers only 2% of the area of the oceans. So if you compare the area of the ocean and the coastal area, so the coastal area is only 2% of the total, the entire oceans. But we know that the coastal habitats, they account for the 50% of the total carbon, 50% of the uh, uh, I mean, one half of the total carbon sequestered in the oceans. It lies into the sediments of the coastal habitats. So you can understand the importance of the coastal habitats. They're so important in combating with the climate change. For mitigating the climate change, we need to protect these coastal areas. We need to conserve them, and we need to we have to take action uh, for obtaining, also for obtaining the generating credits. There's a great opportunity of generating credits from the coastal habitats. If you see this, uh, if now there is a problem in these online webinars, that there is very little interaction between the trainers and the participants. I can I ask one question? If the participants, Uruj, if the participants can answer those, can answer my question.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
We have option for question answer session, but we will try to take it at the end of
because
the session.
because you know that I always try to keep it very very interactive,
Sure,
and
sir. If you
in
want
the
to take questions now,
online.
yes, sir.
Okay, I will ask one question. Can anyone please tell me what can you see in this map, in this distribution map of the blue carbon ecosystems? Is there any specific thing that someone can point out about any of the ecosystem? Uh,
Sir, I can see the world map. I think it's a mangrove ecosystem which is spreading over all the world across the coast.
right, these mangrove ecosystems, they are all these mangrove ecosystem are present in the, you can see they are all of them are present near the equator region or in the tropical or subtropical regions. The mangroves, you will not find the mangroves right on top in the and right in the north, in the Europe or North America. You are not going to find these mangrove ecosystems. You will find them in the tropical and subtropical ecosystems. Similarly, over there you can find the other ecosystems like the salt marshes and the sea grasses. You can find them way in the north, like the Scandinavian countries, the British Isles, even in the Iceland and Greenland. You can find those things in the